The Tell Empire, where everything is clean, efficient, and about as fun as a bloody monastery. But today, we're diving into a clash of cultures like no other. A rogue trader with the personality of a drunk Highlander versus a Tell diplomat who just wants to survive the conversation. And trust me, it gets ridiculous. But I'm not alone in this glorious madness. Joining me today is the one, the only Heretical Hatter, who will be providing his own brand of wisdom or heresy, depending on how you look at it. So, without further ado, say hello, you magnificent bastard!
Welcome, dear listeners. I'm happy to be a co-creator of this little narrated story with Killer Studio. This project took more time than initially expected, but it's finally out, ready to be enjoyed by all of you. I would kindly ask you to like this video, comment your thoughts, and to subscribe to both of our channels.
Aye, and if you don't, I might just trade your soul to the Mechanicus for a slightly upgraded toaster. Now, grab a glass of whiskey, sit back, and prepare yourself for the ultimate clash between the Imperium's most unpredictable rogue and the Tell's most unfortunate diplomat. Let's dive in. So, this is the Great Library of Viola-Vale.
Lord Captain Duncan MacCrumble looked up at the smooth dome in typical Tau style and spat on the ground. Poor Ui, thy other Tal Sin, suppressed a groan that was gathering in the back of his throat. He was so excited when Poro Shavar gave him the opportunity to be a guide to a rogue trader. He heard so much about those devilish rogues from the dreadful Imperium of Man. People who weren't afraid of bending rules in the name of trade and profit. A perfect tool for spreading the greater good. That's what he thought. But Lord MacCrumble proved to him that while you can take light of enlightenment to humanity, you can never truly enlighten them. Not this one, at least, he dared to hope. Honorable Lord Trader, the young diplomat started. Our world might be young, but this library stands as the greatest repository of knowledge of the entire sept. The surface structure you see here is merely a part of far greater complex that stretches deep underground. He tried to make it sound as impressive as possible.
See, this is the problem with ya Tell. You keep digging deep into the ground, hiding there like vermin, rather than taking inspiration from your betters and building up until your buildings scrape the very heavens.
Rogue Trader declared with a passion. Tal Sin shuddered at the very thought. He saw how tall humans of the Imperium built their structures, especially the terrifying hive cities, places where this species lived like insects, dying by a million every single day, if not in even shorter time frame. The air choked with smoke and ground polluted to the point that no natural thing could endure there. It went against the very psychology of the Tau. Their civilization was placed on a strong fundament of harmony, not only between castes and different species, but also nature itself. The humans were the opposite. And to see a rogue trader, someone who he would expect to be more enlightened, to praise such horrific constructs made him feel sick. Yet he showed none of it. Junior watercast or not, he was still a diplomat. The Earth-cast construction and city planning ensures that we can live in peaceful and clean environment. He tried. I'm sure someone like you can appreciate how clean our world is. Rogue Trader scratched his chin as they walked towards the library entrance, as if in deep thought, before he answered.
It's too clean,
he said after a moment. Junior diplomat almost sputtered. Too clean? That seemed to be a joke of some sort. How could a world be too clean?
You see, no specks of dust, no trash. It looks sterile, like nobody lives here, like no one enjoys themselves in your oh-so-glorious empire. Show me a city covered in trash, with drunks and dead bodies in ditches, and I'll show you a city that knows how to have fun.
Talcin's facade of peasant guide almost shattered at that, but he held strong. He didn't train from the moment of birth to be left unbalanced by something like this. In fact, he started to think that this was some kind of big test for him, to see if he will crack under the constant pressure from an obnoxious human, who walked around in decorated armored plate and coat made of some kind of beast. I'm sure that if you gave Vashrisa a chance, it would prove to be quite a metropolis. He tried again, knowing that in the end, it would be futile.
Not enough bars and brothels for my taste. I'm sure some of your female counterparts could convince me to do many things for your empire. For the right price, of course.
The trader went as far as to dig in his nose as he said so.
And no slave auctions, not even one! How am I supposed to fill in the missing gaps of personnel now?
He almost whined. The very thought of procreation between different species made him go pale. And casual talk of slavery made him shiver. Why the Aun even bothered to make deals with this rogue trader was beyond him. But it was not his place to question the wisdom of ethereals. They had to have their reasons, really good ones, he hoped. Our world has entertainment districts that might be to your liking, Lord Trader, though I must remind you that slavery is illegal in the Tau Empire. He tried to be polite. Rogue Trader furrowed his brow as if remembering something before he snapped his fingers.
Ah yes, you guys are all about equal rights.
A ray of hope, Talcin thought. Maybe this trader could comprehend the idea of a Tauva after all. Indeed, Lord Trader, he began before McCrumble cut him off.
Though we know it's a pile of shit, right?
He gave him a smile of a devil's second bastard.
Some people are more equal than others. After all, the ethereals are on top, then the Tal, then everyone else. You're all equal beneath your beloved masters, are you not?
Talcin sputtered at such blatant disregard of a caste system and their structure. We all live in the submission to the Tau Va. The ethereals are our spiritual leaders. He protested. They are the ones who keep balance and harmony between the castes.
Sounds like a big pile of shit to me.
Rogue Trader chuckled as they reached the doors of a great library.
A pyramid scheme, we humans call it.
Young Poor looked deep into his memory, trying to find the definition of a strange human term. This he actually enjoyed. The human creativity and ability to reference both events, locations, and people through their terms and sayings was inspiring. Though he sputtered once more when he finally remembered what the pyramid scheme meant. Good Lord Trader, while I understand your confusion... Poor Ui started as the great library doors silently opened. I must insist that the greater good stands on the principle of unity, harmony, and cooperation. The exploitation you think of isn't something which is occurring within our glorious empire. Rogue Trader gave him a side glance with his green eyes, his red hair and beard making him look more like a furry bestial savage than someone with a personal worships and enough of a fortune to buy a moon or two.
If you say so, young diplomat.
Trader answered, clearly unconvinced. The library was a great dome made of alien alloy, timber and stone from every corner of the sept. A symbol of unity and expansion of the Tau Va. Multiple glass rings separated sections of a ceiling, allowing a great deal of natural light to fill the halls of the library. They were supported by clean electrical lights, shelves upon shelves of books, data disks, scrolls, and even stone tablets stood in neat rows on elegant shelves. A swarm of drones flew above them in complete silence, putting back or retrieving materials from shelves for people to use. Multiple holographic projections showed different artifacts, texts, or objects that could catch interests of some wandering scholar. It was nothing like the library on the Flying Scotsman, the flagship of his fleet. His personal library was always humming with the immense power of his cruiser. Servo skulls, servitors, and other servants tended to all his needs there. Trophies of numerous victories stood next to bookshelves, and there was an entire cabinet dedicated to nothing but storing the alcohol for his enjoyment. Most importantly, it was his library, personal library of a rogue trader, where few people indeed had the right to enter without or with his permission. The idea of this public library made the magnificent and humble Lord Captain Dukan Atrotius Highland Frostbane MacCrumble the 23rd, the keeper of Hagos Forge, Duke of Rolling Locks, wielder of a sacred claymore, Prophet's Edge, High Laird of the Stalwart Isles, Baron of the Bannerburg's Void, Master of a Celestial Distillery, and Sovereign of the savage clans of Scotia, trembled at the very thought of sharing knowledge with... he shuddered. Peasants! Truly, what a dreadful thing to witness with his own eyes. Knowledge was power after all. That's why he guarded it with such fervor. The very concept of sharing any of it was straight up heretical. Only weak-willed, spineless, and uncultured Xenos like the Tau could come up with such disgusting idea. As they walked through the halls of this public library, McCrumble couldn't stop figuring out what other controversial question he could ask, something to finally break the poor dumb Xenos diplomat that was accompanying him. There were cracks already, that much he noticed, but he didn't crack. Not yet. He needed to keep up the offensive.
Tell me, O wise young water boy.
Lord Trader said with a cheerful note in his voice.
What happens if someone in your empire fancies, let's say, the lesser good instead of the greater good? Do they just disappear without a trace? Or do you exile them for their heresy?
He almost laughed seeing how many new colors appeared on the diplomat's face. Say what you want about the Tau, but for all the talk of them not being expressive, they could turn so many shades of grey-blue. The young diplomat sputtered, his facade breaking apart, Rogue Trader's smile growing by the second, waiting for the moment when it would shatter. A moment he would greatly enjoy. A moment that didn't come, as a new voice reached their ears. They get kicked in the ass and punished. A harsh, unapologetic tone crushed his fun. Rogue Trader turned to see an old Tau, no, an ancient Tau, the oldest he has ever seen in person, in fact. He was leaning on a very elegant cane, made of orange timber and some kind of bone. His face was covered in wrinkles and scars? He couldn't tell the difference. What little hair that remained on top of the Tau head was silver white, not the string of typical black to see. He was about to throw some curse towards the old fart, but he noted how young Talsin bowed with respect. And that meant a lot. The Tau bowed this deeply only before three things: ethereals, higher rank, and greater experience. The Tau standing before him was no ethereal, and the bow was too deep for it to be a matter of only rank or only experience. This one was a real deal. A corner of his mouth twitched. Good. Cracking the young one was enjoyable, but what fun is there without a challenge?
It's a wonder then you're still here. Most of your kind are so very polite, but not you. I was wondering if all you tell are just born without a backbone, or is it something that is removed later?
Talsin almost gasped, but a small gesture from the old watercast silenced any reaction. The damn Tau sign language. It was excessive, to say the least. For all his talent of learning new languages, even those of Xenos, the sign language of a Tau remained an enigma to him. He knew only a handful of signs, not to mention the difficulty of attempting to learn a sign language of a species with 4 fingers when he himself had all 5. Just another proof of human superiority. The limitations of decorum are lifted with age, and I am one old bastard who has stronger spine than your cruiser, seeing how it crumbled slightly after your last battle with the orcs in Hollow Reach subsector. Old Watercast smiled. Dukan froze for a half a second, his mind racing. How could that Xeno know about not insignificant damage the Flying Scotsman suffered in the battle 4 months ago? He will have to contact the Seneschal and order a purge of the crew. It seems that damnable Tau had a spy in the ranks. He narrowed his eyes, focusing them on the old Tau.
You seem well informed.
He tilted his head with interest.
I do wonder, who am I speaking to?
Another small hand gesture, and Tal Sin stepped forward. Honorable Lord Trader, you stand before Poro Dalif Valtoni, the Thundering Sea. He is the elder of a watercast and the head librarian. Young Tal Sin explained. He is one of the most respectable members of my caste in the entire sept. One who is still of good hearing and good smelling, despite my age. Valtoni said with a slight smile. I couldn't help but smell a human who came into my sanctum, my temple. I was wondering who of this warrior species would be so boring to come to the library of all places. He smiled, perfectly imitating a human expression. Now I know. Mac Crumble wanted to be offended. Oh, he wanted to be offended indeed, but he couldn't bring himself to be so when faced with such delightful challenge.
And here I thought only the Kroot bite back.
He chuckled.
From where did you learn to be so sharp-tongued? I wonder.
Valtoni raised an eyebrow. I would think it obvious, boy. I learned it from your kind. I spent decades traveling the periphery between Imperial and Tau space. I have dealt with your people, the zealots, the traders, the generals, the admirals, even a few space marines, believe it or not.
Impressive! Even in the Imperium, few have had the honor of meeting one of the Emperor's angels.
Mac Crumble chuckled.
I hope you didn't piss yourself in front of them, in fear.
The old librarian laughed, seemingly blind to the shocked expression on Tal Sin's face. I won't deny that they were terrifying, but they clearly didn't kill me, so I must have done something right.
So it seems.
Rogue Trader agreed, wondering if he could use that nugget of wisdom later.
This youngster is my guide as I travel through your little city. I was wondering where you people store your knowledge, and I was led to this tasteless dome. I was wondering if there is anything to learn in those bent walls.
He mocked. For one to learn, one must ask. The librarian stated, his eyes full of hidden fire. It is rare to find even one person interested in expanding their knowledge in the endless horde of ignorance that is your species. Valtoni rubbed his chin. What was that saying I heard from one of your preachers? Yes. Blessed is the mind, too small for doubt. There, an opening.
Really? It's ironic that you don't see the similarities between the human masses following the word of the ecclesiarchy and the Tal following the word of the ethereals.
Mac Crumble gave Valtoni a devilish smile. Tal Sin paled. The very thought there could be similarity between the two was, frankly, terrifying. His worries were dispelled by Valtoni's laugh. The difference is, my dear rogue trader, is that we know we are right, Old Tau answered. McCrumble blinked.
What?
What? Are your ears as defective as the thing between your ears, boy? I said that the difference is that we are right and you are wrong. The sheer bluntness of the statement almost stunned the rogue trader. Almost.
Grok shit. What possible proof could you have of your ideology's rightfulness?
Rogue trader spat. The very same you have for yours. Words and guns. Valtoni eyes glinted with mischief.
We have the Emperor.
McCrumble raised a finger in a triumph. We have ethereals, and unlike your Emperor, you can actually see them in person. Valtoni smiled. When was the last time your god stepped from the golden throne and, stretched his legs? Rogue trader gritted his teeth.
You mock the Imperium with every breath you take, Xeno,
he said in a warning tone. What? Your god not strong enough to endure a handful of harsh words from aging Xenos diplomat? The librarian asked.
The God Emperor won't be felled by mere words, Watercast.
Then why do you defend him so much, if he can't take care of himself? Valtoni shot back with a mischievous smile.
Why do you defend the ethereals when humans mock them?
Dukan returned the question. The librarian and the trader were silent for a moment, sizing each other up. After a moment, Valtoni relented. Touché! He shrugged his shoulders. Rogue trader smiled back.
Indeed.
He relaxed his shoulders. It was clear that this was far from over, but this battlefield wasn't one where the war will be won. You had questions, trader. Ask them. I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities, Valtoni said, gesturing to follow him deeper into the library. Dukan rubbed his chin, looking up, wondering if he should try to insult the Watercast or actually get some interesting facts out of him. He decided for the latter. A brief pause in their war of words would do them both good, before battle will be rejoined. The drones flying above him caught his attention.
I was wondering, do your drones have brakes, or are they just slaves in nothing but name?
Valtoni glanced back at him over his shoulder. They aren't slaves, they are helpers, and yes, they do have brakes. Maintenance and refilling the batteries do take time after all. They also benefit from a period of inaction where their components can rest, Valtoni explained.
Helper?
Dukan tasted the words on his lips.
You call humans that, don't you?
Human helpers, yes. A way to note the difference between humans loyal to the Imperium and the Empire, the librarian stated.
Still sounds like more of a delicate way to put the word slavery, though.
A rogue trader said with a devilish smile. Valtoni rolled his eyes, not bothering to look back at the rogue trader, and without the doubt flustered Talsin, who was following close behind them. Vesa is a common word used in our lexicon. Most species allied to the Empire have an extension of Vesa if they are working with us. The drone themselves are called Vesa, but many Tau themselves have Vesa as a name. Helper means just that. Helper. There is no second meaning. Valtoni said plainly. McCrumble thought about it for a moment, reaching the conclusion that the probability of Tau calling themselves slaves unironically was rather limited.
Fair enough.
He relented after a moment.
While we're on the subject of names though, I was wondering, who came up with the names for your fucking vehicles? Hammerhead, Devilfish, Skinray, Manta, Barracuda. No wonder people call you fish people, despite the fact that you have hooves. Why not call your vehicles after something angry and tough? Isn't your homeworld a desert or something?
I can answer this one. Tal Sin spoke up, trying to get back into the conversation. Old Poirot made a sign of listening teacher, a slight smile in his fingers, giving Tal Sin a chance. You are correct, Honorable Lord Trader. Tau is an arid world, one of harsh and unforgiving climate. That's why water and creatures that live in it have gained our respect. Before we explored the stars, we explored our seas and oceans. From that old fascination comes the names of our vehicles, he explained. Dukan rubbed his chin. He wanted to bite back at how ludicrous naming after animals was, but he knew he had no ground to stand in this case. Rhino, Razorback, Manticore, Chimera, Griffon and Lynx were all ground vehicles named after animals, after all. Not to mention numerous Cobra-class destroyers or far rarer Raven-class frigates. For better or for worse, some of the Imperium administrators responsible for this task weren't more creative than the Tau. He stopped before one of the displays, his eyes widening. Inside a shimmering energy field, hanging in the air by the power of profane Xenos technology, hung artifacts and tokens from his Imperium. An administrative servo skull with writing instruments and parchment roll. A number of Imperial documents. Everything from personal letters, troop deployment orders, administrator dreadful documentation, a guardsman knife with a finely made writing on the blade, and a helmet of a space marine. Not something he expected to see. Helmet from a White Scar, Valtoni said, stepping next to the trader. An artifact granted to this library on my request from the museum on Dalif. A trophy taken from one of your fallen super soldiers. McCrumble looked into the dead visors of the helmet in silence for a moment before speaking.
I wonder how many Tau died trying to kill this one,
he said with a slight smirk. Many, without doubt. Only a fool wouldn't recognize the might of your angels of death, Valtoni conceded.
Is this one the Marine you met?
Captain asked with a mocking chuckle. No, mine was very much alive and belonged to a different chapter, Librarian answered with a smile. One that wasn't part of a crusade.
Much time has passed since Daliath and the peace treaty signed there.
He glanced back at the watercast.
Now your empire knows how many threats there are, How many monsters hide between the stars, and yet you boldly expand into our territory? You really think the greater good is better at keeping us safe than the Emperor sitting on his golden throne?
Valtoni was silent for a moment before shrugging. I can't be sure. What I know is that humans in our empire are more fulfilled and happier than when they were in your Imperium. Like it or not, Lord Captain, but your Imperium is an old, sick, dying creature. One propelled by its mass and momentum, and nothing more. I don't think any god, yours or any other, could keep humans and other species truly safe. But what I do know is that greater good can keep them contented and happy, and that has not insignificant value. McCrumble scoffed at the naivety of that statement.
And what happens when you expand all over the galaxy, huh? What happens when you subjugate every world to your will and the greater good?
He asked.
What then?
Poirot looked at the rogue trader with the eyes of someone who thought the answer to be obvious. There is more than one galaxy out there, Lord Trader. And we aren't limited by the range of a light from Astronomicon. After we liberate this galaxy from oppression and ignorance, we will move on to the next, and the next one, and the next one. The madness contained in that statement almost made McCrumble spat in disbelief.
And when all the galaxies are in your hand?
He dared to ask. Valtoni chuckled. We didn't plan that far ahead. Dukan shook his head, unable to hide his disbelief.
I wanted to ask if you ever get drunk, but I don't need to, because this statement could only come from the mouth of a drunk. Which is a wonder, because Yital act as if you've never drunk alcohol in your life.
Valtoni actually burst out laughing at that. Nothing could be further from the truth. He shook his head in amusement. Rogue Trader raised an eyebrow.
Elaborate.
We drink alcohol, quite a lot of it, in fact. We are just more resistant to its effect than humans, Librarian answered. Rogue Trader looked down at the relatively small alien.
You, resistant to alcohol. You must be 60 kilograms, soaking wet. How a lightweight like you could handle any alcohol at all?
He asked in disbelief. Wonders of a different biology, Valtoni smirked. Came useful when I met with the diplomatic mission protected by the space wolves. Rogue Trader stared at the librarian with disbelieving eyes as the implications of that statement dawned on him.
No, you didn't.
He shook his head. I assure you, I most definitely did. Poirot gave him a devilish smirk.
You drank with the space wolves?
He couldn't believe his ears. They wouldn't hear me out if I didn't drink some of their mead. Valtoni shrugged.
Fenrisium ale.
At the nod from the librarian, he sputtered.
But that drink is poisonous. It would kill any human.
The librarian's smirk turned into a wide smile. "How fortunate then that I am not a human and possess special augmentations that are to help me fight more dangerous poisons and toxins." Rogue Trader remained silent for a few long seconds.
You were sick for a while after that, weren't you?
"I felt as if I was dying for a month," Poro chuckled. "My vocal cords didn't recover since then." Rogue Trader remained silent for a moment before smiling.
We should have a drink soon. Talk about some of our adventures.
A note of excitement and true interest in his voice. Poro chuckled under his breath. "As long as there won't be any wolves, I will consider it." McCrumble laughed, excited to hear more from the Xenos who had enough spine to actually fight back.
By the Golden Throne, no wolves, I swear on my warrant of trade.
He placed a hand on his heart. "Then I would be honored to join you." I think that's about it. If you enjoyed this narrated story, remember to
hit that like button like you're hitting a bottle, comment your thoughts, and of course, subscribe.
Yeah, that about sums it up. Thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned and stay safe out there.